Welcome back to Primetime News.
And a special welcome once again to our viewers on onespotmedia.com.
Up first this evening, COVID-19 cases in Jamaica have now climbed to 12.
And now non-essential workers are being told to work from home as efforts continue to control the virus's spread.
Now, those details and more were highlighted at a press briefing at Jamaica House just a few minutes ago. Andrea Chisholm is there and now joins us with the latest. Andrea.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, let me just update the nation on the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Jamaica. As it stands now, the number of confirmed cases, that now stands at 12. Earlier, you would have heard 15, but since then, 5 of that were preliminary test results. Since then, 3 have came back negative, and so the number of confirmed cases, it's now at 12. Now, you will recall as well that the Prime Minister indicated that, if necessary, more stringent actions will be taken, and as such, he made this announcement.
All travelers from countries where there is local transmission of COVID-19 will now be required to self-quarantine for up to 14 days. Effective this Wednesday, March 18, 2020, the government will institute a new policy of requiring for 7 days hence this time, this is the 18th of March, 7 days from the 18th of March, that all non-essential work be done from home. So we are going to be asking the permanent secretaries to examine all functions within their respective ministries, departments, and agencies, and where they are considered to be non-essential, that those be carried on at home or remotely. The same is required of the private sector.
And let me just tell you that hospitals, they'll also be scaling down the visitations. That has now been scaled down to 1 visit per day, and it's restricted to 1 individual. And outpatient clinics are also to be scaled down. The Prime Minister also announced that a contract has been signed for $2.2 million for protective gear to come into the island, and that includes N95 masks. And he also made some additional announcements regarding gathering.
No gathering in any public space of over 20 persons. So 20 up to 20, but we still recommend that you do not gather at all in public places, and if you gather, you maintain the required 3 to 4 feet distance from each other. The reason why we're promulgating these measures under law is that the Constable of Police is now empowered by law to take action if it is observed that there is a gathering in excess of 20 persons. Now, this has particular consequences. It therefore means that funerals are subject to this. My advice would be to limit the attendance at funerals as much as possible to close family members.
And that also applies to weddings. Bars will also be closed, and they're restricting the opening of that. However, essential places like markets, supermarkets, corner shops, and pharmacies, they'll be allowed to be opened. Markets, for example, the Prime Minister did announce that their opening hours will be from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., and persons in the transportation sector will also be affected.
Under this order, the JUTC and Montego Bay Metro will be required to only carry passengers seated. Only passengers seated. In terms of taxis, they are required to carry one less passenger than they are licensed to do. That is the restriction as of now. So if they were licensed to carry 5, they will carry 4, and if they're licensed to carry 7, they will carry 6.
So what if I decide not to abide by any of the regulations outlined by the government? Well, Attorney General Marlene Malahoo Fort outlined the penalties.
And as a result of the orders made, there is a penalty section. And if you fail to comply, essentially, you're liable to a fine of $1 million or imprisonment not exceeding 12 months. Be warned, the laws will be enforced. And they can be enforced by the police, by a soldier, a fireman, a health officer, a nurse, a vet, even the CEO of the National Works Agency. Those are defined as authorized officers under the law.
Now, there have also been concerns from those in the tourism sector talking about the fallout that they've had to suffer from as a result of the closure of some of the businesses, because there's been a downturn in arrivals as expected. Well, the Prime Minister did indicate that later this week we should be getting information as to whether or not the government will be utilizing any money from the $7 billion contingency fund that was outlined by the Finance Minister when he addressed Parliament. So we're expecting to hear more about that later this week. In addition to that, pandemic leave, as in the case in Trinidad, that cabinet in Trinidad has made some announcements in relation to that, and the Prime Minister will also indicate later this week if Jamaica will go that route or another. Until then, it's back to you in studio.